And now Peter Brock on his last lap, enjoying himself, getting a great cheer from the crowd as he goes through.
I grew up watching Brock.
Just getting bedded in. Very nice.
There's the checkered flag, and Peter Brock goes across the line.
The team Commodore has done it again.
He was the icon of motorsport. He was what we all looked up to.
Here it comes, the checkered flag for Peter Brock.
I think Peter was always going to get there.
Gee, I thought the way mine finished up, it's just ready for Bathurst.
He is really trying hard.
This is a very fast lap.
Peter Brock, 0-5, Australian touring car champion.
Yeah, Brock at his best was in that fluent style that he had, was beautiful to watch.
Peter Brock takes command once again in the run with the checkered flag. He's in good shape for a record.
Thanks for all your support out there too. I love the way you're cheering me on.
And you see some of the footage of the cars he drove and how he drove them, sort of thing. And to win what he won, he must have been pretty good.
Peter Brock across the top of the mountain every time he goes by. Listen to them. And he's just hurling it round.
As the flag drops, I'm probably at my most nervous.
He was excellent and very hard to beat.
The Bathurst King goes out after the mountain again. Oh, a 2:15.8. A stunning time from Brock. Peter Brock, sensational time.
As a person, over the time that I knew the guy, he changed an awful lot.
Covers were drawn off Brock's car of the future.
The only Aussie car there out there having a run this weekend, so it's going to be interesting to see how we stack up against the internationals, really.
If anyone knows how to shave fractions of a second off a lap here, it's Peter Brock. Oh, gets it sideways.
There's Brock at work.
Oh!
The mountain master, Brock, 9 times winner, back in a Holden, and gee, he's really on the limit.
Fantastic driver, just had a real natural ability.
It's Peter Brock!
I just thought he had a beautiful personality, something that was very much the people's champion.
Thank you very much. Yes, hello, this is the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. Great to have your company today and the finale of Series 1. Now, today we're going to pay tribute to a man who has made an enormous contribution to Australian motorsport. You cannot do a Legends series without stopping to consider the unbelievable achievements of Peter Jeffrey Brock. And on today's program, we're going to see Peter and his achievements through the eyes of those who raced against and worked with him over a very long period of time. Mark Osler is going to take a look at a very special Brock car as a part of the Shannons Classic Racing car, and Aaron Noonan's got some tremendous material from the vault covering off Peter's performances over the years as well. Really looking forward to seeing some of that material. Our very first guest today spent an enormous part of his professional racing life alongside Peter Brock. He's a racing legend in his own right. Would you please welcome John Harvey? Hello, John. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for spending time with us, and great to catch up. It's fantastic, John, to have you here and to stop and recognise some of that stuff. You've done a lot over a long period of time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It was a very long career, and I guess I'm pretty proud of it, but I guess one thing I could say which might surprise people about all the cars I drove in a long career, I never owned one.
Well, that can be a good and a bad thing. So tell me how you hooked up with the Holden dealer team, and I assume Harry Firth.
Look, I'd been driving for Bob Jane Racing in single-seaters and the McLaren sports car and so on, and I think it was about toward the end of '74, Bob's direction changed in terms of he was wanting to concentrate on touring cars more so than spending a lot of money on the open wheel side of things, and the Tasman series had sort of died a little bit. The Europeans were no longer coming to Australia about '69, and really didn't have a drive. And at Calder Raceway they had this Gemini series, and a Holden dealer friend of mine offered me an opportunity to drive in this Gemini series, which I was a little bit reluctant at first, but I thought, well, it's televised, I'll keep my name up in front of the public, I'm still around, so I did that and won that 3 or 4 times, and that led to other things, and particularly with Harry, and Harry invited me to drive with Colin Bond at Bathurst in '76, I think it was, and so, as history shows, we finished second. And it sort of took off from there, the touring car career.
Yeah, and a very strong one, as I just detailed there. And we've actually got some wonderful vision of John at Bathurst in 1977 with the Holden dealer team.
Evan Green here, John. The pace seems to be furious, and we noticed with Alan Moffat and yourself that there's quite a physical toll on the drivers. It must be an exhausting race to drive.
It sure is. Like, I'm wringing wet from head to foot. The circuit's fairly slippery up on the top, and you've got to really watch your P's and Q's, and you're working at it all the time and to keep up the pace that we're at, which, you know, is not really straining the car, but the condition of the circuit and to keep that pace, we're really working at it, and I'm feeling a bit weary at the moment. I'm welcome the break, I can assure you.
Some great old stuff there. John Harvey's 1977 Holden dealer team, and I mean, it's so different back then, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I was driving around, didn't know the diff was leaking. It's a very different, standing there with a can of Pepsi just in between stints.
Yeah, well, there were different times, but nevertheless, the racing was still very, very exciting, particularly for the spectators and for the competitors.
Now, one of the things that's interesting when we started to look up your partnership was that though you spend an enormous amount of time together, competing initially and then together as teammates later and so forth, and then you running aspects of the business, you didn't actually race together very often.
We only actually raced together 3 times, and each one of those times we won. I took the job on knowing full well what it was all about. I was number 2 in the team. Peter was number 1. It wasn't like a normal team because no other team had a driver like Peter Brock or as well known as Peter. Peter was the consummate public speaker and did a lot of it, and so I joined the team as number 2, and number 2 means you're number 2, and people often said, well, wasn't your car as good as his? And I'd say, well, yes it was. The cars were built in the shop over a period of time. They were both exactly the same. The difference was when you got to a race meeting, unlike building a race car which takes 2 or 3 months depending, when you get to a race team, a whole lot of things happen really quickly. And if some little thing goes wrong, related to the car's a technical feature between sessions, the effort went into the 05 car, which I accepted. That was the way it was. As soon as they got that one done and he was right, then they'd do mine. I might miss part of a session, so be it. And so there was but we raced together, and most of the time the cars were good. And I supported him very well in all the races, and there might have been some that I could have won. I'll say that myself, probably people will disagree, but I always, most cases finished a close second to him. There were times when we went across the line together. And if I'd have been a real smart aleck, I could have just went and just beat him over the line at the right at the end. But they were form finishes, and that's the way it was. And I accepted that role, and I enjoyed it.
And coming up after the break, we're going to be joined by another of your Holden dealer team teammates. Jimmy Richards, a special guest, is going to join us, but we will go to the break, John, with some wonderful stuff that we've got of you and Peter in one of the rare moments of 3 where you were paired together and you did enjoy a victory.
Coming down into the last corner, the right-hander down through the gears, John Harvey. Beads of perspiration. Peter Brock, an engineered move to win the first of the long-distance classics. And the last corner comes up, the sweep through Breville, the main straightaway, 155 laps completed. The Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodore has done it again. First place in the CRC Chemicals 300-kilometre classics. This is the man who sat on pole position for the Hardy Pareto 1000 last year. They all went round, set their fast times. Late in the day, out came Peter Brock.
Well, this is a very fast lap.
And we'll watch him as he comes down through. Oh, he is really trying hard, picking a wheel up, going through here very, very neatly, very, very smoothly. Peter Brock, 05, Australian touring car champion in the Marlborough Holden dealer team. Tirana, wait for the corner. It's a good line, and he's in good shape for a record.
This is our Peter Brock tribute. Welcome back to the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. A pole position for Peter there. We're very pleased to be able to welcome to the program his teammate who was with Peter between 1978 and 1987. Right-hand man also in the running of the Holden dealer team special vehicles operation for many years. John, 6 pole positions at Bathurst for Peter, 9 victories as we all know. Both of those represent records in the industry. Was he that good at Bathurst? Was it good luck, or was it a technical advantage, or was it D, all of the above?
All of the above. However, I always noticed in Peter from about the second last, say, endurance race in the series, before Sandown, he just sort of upped the ante. He was building himself up to Bathurst, no question about it in my mind. And he, as you mentioned, he also did very well at Sandown. And that was all that was on his mind. And he could hardly wait to get to Bathurst. He loved the place. Well, we all did, but he just had that special liking for it. And when he got there, we would drive around the track just to have a quick look to make sure there's new bits of bitumen here and there, or some change to one of the corners, or the curbing, anything like that. We'd have a really good look around the circuit. And he took all that in. And come the first practice, he was on the pace. He really did look forward to getting to Bathurst. I think that was the feature of his year.
Well, he won there in 1972, he won again in 1975, and then he put together an extraordinary string of victories beginning in 1978, and he did it with our next guest. Would you please welcome Jim Richards. Jimmy, welcome. John, grab a seat. So you guys were an item together at one point in history in the Holden dealer team, a very successful period, and you just basically walked into that team at a point in the late 70s there, Richo, and just ticked boxes every time you got in the car. It must have been a great period.
Well, it certainly was, and I think that I was very lucky to be there in that period, because I think there's quite a lot of other guys that could have been in the same seat that could have done the same job, but I was there and I had a part of it, and it was fantastic.
Well, together as teammates there for 4 years, and to walk away with 3 victories out of those 4 years is a rarity. You know how hard it is in this business. No, for sure. I mean, even in 81, we were ultra competitive and probably would have close to done the same thing, but we had a few little skirmishes and it didn't happen, but it was great. What about your recollections of you guys in the Holden dealer team at the time? What was it like? Well, I was there virtually as a co-driver, and I'd go to the meetings just at that meeting. I mean, Harves was there all the time. So to me, it was a real friendly atmosphere, because it was like a big family. But I would just arrive there. I was looked after. He was like your boss. He'd do what you're told. Exactly what I was told. Yeah, and I'd do the amount of laps that was necessary, and that was normally the least amount of laps I could do, so that the car was fresh and ready to go for the race. It was terrific. All right, let's have a bit of a look here at Jimmy in action with Peter.
Jim Richards, your first drive here at Bathurst for the Marlborough Holden dealer team. You appear to be doing it pretty easily. How's the car?
Yeah, the car was running perfectly. There was sort of no need to go real fast. We just had to maintain a steady pace.
Evan, I think you might have a question or two for Jim.
Did you find these slow vehicles a real hazard out there?
They are a bit, yeah. They're sort of, some of the cars are running at their own pace and having their own private little battle, and it's very hard to get past them.
Some of the early material there with our special guest Jimmy Richards driving for the Holden dealer team. You guys spent a lot of time with him, and it's really, we know about what's happened on the racetrack, and many of us have observed it over a long period of time, but I'm interested in the personal stories. What was it like to work with the bloke, share a car with the bloke, travel with the guy, and go about your daily routine as race drivers, Jim?
Well, I mean, it was very easy for me, because as I said before, I would arrive at the meetings, but when I drove with Pete in '88, he lived between my place and the airport. So nearly each time we went to a race meeting, I'd pick him up and we'd drive to the airport, a lot of the time with Bev, and stay at the same hotel, have a few meals together. He was just a genuine, nice, lovely guy. I mean, he just loved motor cars, he loved driving, and he was absolutely brilliant at it. And you know, we never had a bad word, never had any problems whatsoever together.
Because you had another role in the business as well as being a successful race driver, John, and that you always, I guess, effectively were the general manager of the HDT special vehicles business, which we'll talk about in more detail later in the program. But you would have had the difficult task sometimes of almost having to play the ringmaster, the teacher, so you would have had to crack the whip on a few occasions.
Yeah, there were occasions, yeah, when that happened. But it was basically a culture shock for both Peter and I to start that business, which neither of us had that much experience in business, and but this was big, and right from the very start we misjudged on the size premises we needed, and we outgrew that within a few months, and then the next one, and the business just grew, particularly that very first model we did, and as soon as it hit the showrooms, and then there was plenty of pre-release publicity, but as soon as it hit the showrooms it was instant success, and we couldn't build them quick enough.
We'll take a break on the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. After the break, we're going to be joined by Peter's long-time and very long-serving faithful PR man, Tim Pemberton, is going to join us as well. And we've got some great material here from 1979, inserts that went into the Bathurst telecast on Channel 7, and Peter and some inner thoughts.
Well, I guess I'm not really as relaxed as I seem to be on the outside. I obviously don't get the outward signs of having a bit of a problem of coping with the situation that perhaps Alan Moffat does. I guess that Colin Bond and I probably have a fairly similar approach to driving, or motoring, competition driving, that we just get in the car and do it. But I think that does not really tell the full story. I have to psych myself up, or don't have to. I tend to be psyched up fairly well before a race. I possibly can still speak to other people and perhaps talk to a few kids and people like that, but I'd rather speak to people outside of motoring, my friends that know me from as a person and know me in other areas such as fishing or whatever. Prior to a race, it's more relaxing.
But I've never had to say it. There's a dog on the track. Oh, and eluding all the pursuers.
To nibble
Tell you what, it'd want to be nimble too. It keeps going in that direction.
Here it comes, the checkered flag for Peter Brock and Jim Richards. Richards at the wheel. A great finish. Peter Brock now makes it 5 Hardy Frodo successes.
1980. Jimmy at the helm there, and you have to contend with all kinds of things when you're driving a racing car, but I bet you weren't aware of that one. There's a dog out there.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that at all.
It's unbelievable. Jimmy, it's great to have you on the program, and we're telling the story about all of us working with Peter over a long period of time, and then you went back and drove with him again in 1988, and you drove the little BMW, and that was a great period because you got to hang out with him, as you said before the break, and I can remember there was a bit of motorcycling and, you know, a few beers along the way and a bit of fun. It was an interesting year, wasn't it?
No, it certainly was, and you know, it was. I was fortunate that Brocky sort of took me on then with the BMs, and I wouldn't know what I had have done had he not done that. So. It was terrific, but you know, we went motorcycle riding together out in the bush, and quite a funny story, really. We met at Brocky's place, and we had our motorbikes on the trailer, and Brocky came down and he had a pair of gumboots on, and I said, "I thought you said you had a pair of boots. You need special boots to do this in." "Oh, no, I'll be right, no problem." So he got his bike loaded on the trailer. We went up into the bush, and away we went. And there was probably about 7 or 8 of us, and we started off. Away we went up a trail down the other side, and all of a sudden I turned around and Brocky wasn't there. And I thought, oh my God, what's happened? You know, so I rode back along the trail, and here was Brocky. He was stuck in a mud puddle, right? His boots were full of water because they're open at the top. And the first thing he said to me was, "Jim," he said, "you continue on. I've just remembered I've got a meeting." and I helped him get the bike out of the mud puddle. He drove back to his car and headed home.
He vanished. We've got some stuff from 1988 because in the shootout that year, because of the international regulations, it actually wasn't a shootout for the top 10. It turned out to be a shootout for the top dozen. It was for money and not for grid positions. But we found this material of Peter absolutely wringing the thing's neck.
Peter Brock in car 56, the mobile BMW, gets it sideways as he takes the green flag for the start of his hot lap.
That's one way to warm up the tyres.
And if anyone knows how to shave fractions of a second off a lap here, it's Peter Brock, as we take 7's race cam and see Brock working hard at the wheel.
He is just magnificent over the top of the mountain, Peter Brock. Coming over the top of Skyline.
Interesting to see the time and how much it cost him for that little sideways slew at the beginning.
So Peter Brock in 56, the mobile M3 across the finishing line. Time for Peter Brock, 2 minutes, 25.119 seconds.
1988 was the year. It's time now to welcome another very special guest to the panel. We're celebrating the life of Peter Brock on our Shannons Legends of Motorsport, and this man spent an awful long time alongside Peter, working with him and crafting the marketing and PR message for many years. Would you please welcome Mr. Tim Pemberton? Good to see you. Welcome. Thank you very much. Great to see you. Tim, thanks very much for joining us today. And you had the, I think at times, unenviable task, I should say, of being the gatekeeper. You had to try and make sure that the message was right for the Brock Enterprise, which from those pictures from the early 70s where we saw this ongoing growth of the star, as it were, reached a point where it had to be managed, and that was your job.
Yeah, he was just a very promotable bloke. In fact, he was probably the most promotable sportsman in Australia, I would think, in the late 70s. The media loved him. If there was a TV program, Don Lane show or something, get Brock on for his point of view on whatever. And it was, the phones just rang hot the whole time.
What about the disasters that you had to manage? Were there a few of those?
There were plenty of them. But you try and forget about all of those. I think one of the funniest ones was a TV commercial for Vitabrits, which John Harvey knows all about, whereupon this hero kid drove around in a fake Vitabrit around Sandown.
Drove a Vitabrit.
A Vitabrit, which was a Volkswagen chassis covered in flakes and things and squared off, so it was a Vitabrit with a head sticking out of it, which was supposed to be the kid, but was actually John Harvey, because the kid couldn't drive around the track. The whole idea, Moffat was supposed to do it with Brock, and the kid would beat both of them doing a lap of Bathurst. But Moffat, who was always dubious about what Brock was up to, refused to have anything to do with it, so Dick Johnson said, "I'll cop 10 grand, I'll do it." So he turned up and did it, and it was a really good commercial. It was quite interesting. Would have cost a fortune, I suppose, but they did very, very nicely out of it, and they got 10 grand each, and John Harvey got a year's supply of Vitabrits.
So your career, this is something that was missed in our notes. I didn't know that you were the Vitabrit driver.
I was. It was really funny because the Vitabrit, as Tim just explained, was built of straw to make it look like a Vitabrit. I did most of the running, but there was no floor on the bottom of this Volkswagen chassis, just the pedals. And I had this helmet on, and but the dust off the track and straw was blowing up in my eyes. I was getting my eyes full of stuff. It was hard to see, but it was so funny, that whole thing. But the very last shot, it shows the Vitabrit coming into turn 1, and Peter Brock goes around the outside and overtakes it, and then the car just goes out of shot, and that's the end of the commercial. Except what had actually happened when he did that, he lost it completely, and this was the 05 car. Banged it into the Armco and wrote the front of it off. It took us about 2 weeks to fix it. After that, the front end, the engine was shoved back in the chassis. It was a big hit. Anyway.
Jimmy, unfortunately, we're going to move the show on. I just want to get some summary thoughts from you on Peter before we go off to the next segment.
Well, I think he to me, was probably the greatest natural driver that I'd seen. He won more Bathursts than anybody, and probably could have won more. And I just thought he was one of the best drivers I'd seen.
And would you please thank our very special guest, Jim Richards, today. Thanks, Richo. One of the things that Peter was very well known for was all the work that he did in terms of road safety, so Aaron has found something quite special from the vault.
And Neil, the number 05, very important in Peter Brock's career, and all the fans who followed him around for many years. Of course, it related to the blood alcohol limit in terms of drink driving in the state of Victoria. I've managed, with the help of the National Film and Sound Archive, to find this very rare gem from the 1970s. This is one of the first drink driving ads with Peter, and check out the bad hair as we go to the break here on Shannon's Legends of Motorsport.
Almost half the drivers killed on Victorian roads have a blood alcohol content above 0.05. 5 standard drinks like these will bring your blood alcohol level up to 0.05. It's 5 beers, 5 glasses of wine, or 5 mixed drinks, each with 1 ounce of spirits. After this, more than 1 drink an hour will take you over the legal limit. Then your judgment, vision and reflexes will all be affected. It's just not on to drink and drive over 0.05.
Doug Chivers, 51 years of age, struggling hard, a terrible job, uphill, a car that weighs about 2,400 weight. It must feel like an agony. Doug is almost dying. You can see how hard he's trying. Clothed in heavy fireproof gear, he got into the pit area, he's made behind him, and now Doug Chivers brought the car in, being helped away. It'll take a little while, Gus, for the petrol to be sucked through. The whole line will be dry all the way along.
He just tried to fire the motor then and it wouldn't fire.
Oh, look at Brock. Look at his face. The man who won last year's race.
That would have been a very painful experience. 1973, 50-year-old Doug Chivers there. Ultimately, they finished second. They were leading at the time when it ran out of fuel, and can you believe it? They got it fired up and got it underway again. But I'm very, very pleased to be able to say today that we have the very car here in the Shannons showroom, and Mark Osler is going to profile it for us right now.
Thanks, Neil. And yes, indeed, I'm standing with the Holden dealer team's Tirana LJ GTR XU1 that Peter Brock drove in 1973 to help the General claim the Manufacturers' Championship, and again in 1974 when he claimed the first of his 3 Australian Touring Car Championships. A brilliant little package. He used to run the rings around the Ford V8s because it was so light. 1,100 kilos, or less than 1,100 kilos, and under the bonnet, a 202 cubic inch 6-cylinder engine, triple carb, produced about 240 brake horsepower, so it had a really good power to weight ratio. Behind that, the M21 4-speed gearbox, and under the tail, a well-located coil-sprung live rear axle. You know, this car has a fantastic history, but as we saw in the opener, the one that really sticks in my mind is poor old Dougie Chivers trying to push this car up toward the Bathurst pit lane to get it refueled. They had the Ford team on the ropes, and the delay in that process cost them the race. You know, Peter Brock drove a lot of really great cars in his career, but there's no doubt the Tirana GTR XU1 was the car that made him a household name.
Thank you, Mark. A great little car, and I'd really like to thank the owner of the car, John Basso, who went to a lot of trouble to be able to bring it here today. Give him a round of applause, please. It's very cool to have a machine like this. I'd like to move the conversation on to the Holden dealer team's Special Vehicles division and the move of Peter and the team to go to Mobile. But before we continue that conversation, let's look at this.
Today at Brock's Port Melbourne headquarters, the covers were drawn off Brock's car of the future, the spearhead of Mobile's multi-million-dollar attack on the Australian motor racing scene. The sleek red, white and blue car is quite different from the machine that won at Bathurst in '84.
It has no spoilers, it has no wide wheels sticking up past the body line, so it looks remarkably stock. The engine is in a much less outrageous stage of tune. For this particular car, it's got about 308 horsepower. Last year we had about 410.
The paint is literally still drying on this car. When are we going to see it in action?
Well, we'll see it in action this Sunday at Sandown against all the BMWs and Johnson's Mustang and what have you. So it's the debut of Mobile Holden dealer team in Australia. It's the debut of our new Commodore, and we've done a lot of behind-the-scenes work. We're catching up on about 4 years' experience the other teams do have. We're the only Aussie car there out there having a run this weekend, so it's going to be interesting to see how we stack up against the internationals, really.
So, boys, this was a really big chapter change in that organisation, and you touched on it before, John, that the strength of the organisation was growing enormously when you got into the road car business, and for both of you, really, this comment probably applies. You're probably just doing it on the run. I mean, the race team's growing, the car company's growing, and you've got to try and keep up with it along the way.
It was an enormous project, for us to get into, as you've quite rightly pointed out, and although we did put some systems into place as we went along and learned, and I might add, we had a lot of support from Holden and some of their engineering people who were, we could speak to daily and who visited us regularly, because the orders from the dealers, as I said earlier, just kept coming in. And it was just a lot of pressure on for everyone.
What it also did is it opened the doors to merchandising for the team, which you couldn't do under Marlboro and Philip Morris, because you couldn't merchandise to kids. And when Mobile turned up, T-shirts were invented and all sorts of other things, and it became a hugely successful business and just grew over the years.
What I'd like to do is point towards the Shannons Club, folks. Why not join today? It's very easy. You can just jump online and sign on. You can create your own virtual garage, discuss favourite topics on the forums, enter the latest competitions, find a car club or an event. You can also watch catch-up episodes of the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. That's all part of the Shannons Club TV experience. Coming up after the break, we're going to catch up with one of Peter's teammates, Brad Jones. He's going to join us, and we'll have another look at that great stuff, the rare vision of Peter sliding around at Bathurst in 1987. Wet track, slick tyres, good result.
still 16 laps remaining in the great race for 1987.
We've got a watch on him, and he's got a fair way to go before we actually get a time. But it'll be interesting to see what that time is in these conditions. Comparatively also to the Sierras, because they suffer in this sort of weather.
Third position behind two suspect Sierras, possibly going for his 9th win.
Listen to the race fans on the hill too. Aggressively faster. Here's the green flag. The Bathurst King goes out after the mountain again.
The crowd across here when Brock comes into view. Watch the clock. Will this snatch the prize for Peter Brock? In the 05 Mobil 1 Commodore, he turns it round the corner, lines it up for the checkered flag. The clock's about to stop.
Oh, a 2:15.8. A stunning time from Brock.
1989, the last of his pole positions, 6 of them at Bathurst for Peter Brock, and there's a story attached to that. We'll get to that. The same year, Brad Jones was the teammate in the Mobil Ford Sierra. I'm very pleased to say that he joins us now. Hands together, please, for Brad Jones. Hey, Bradley. Welcome.
Gentlemen.
You got to spend some quality time with Peter in 1989. You got the opportunity to drive that Ford Sierra 2-car team. That was a tricky year.
It was a funny sort of year. I mean, I really got to know Brock the year before when you were his teammate. We used to all hang around together, and I was fortunate enough to get the drive in '89. And you know, those Sierras were very difficult cars to drive, and Brock was at a period in his life where he changed brands for the second time. We didn't have a lot of spares with the car. We had, I think it was a total of 16 springs for the car, both of them, and not much in the way of spares. And so it was a tough year.
But you were not only teammate in 1989, but you guys were mates before and after, really, weren't you? So, I mean, you'd known him for a long period of time, and then you were subsequently quite close for many years after that.
Yes. Brock started racing at the Hume Weir, which my dad was the president of the car club. So I'd met him, well, he would never have remembered that, but... and so you just, you know, he was my hero when I was a kid. You know, I can remember sitting watching Bathurst in the 80s, early 80s, and certainly all the way through the 70s. I started watching when I was 8. So, you know, you end up with a connection, and Brock was such a likeable bloke. You spend so much time with him, and, you know, and on it went sort of thing.
Tell the story about what happened with that pole position.
They got the fire extinguisher, which was Freon at the time, and pointed it at the intercooler to cool the charge down so it would produce more horsepower. So, unfortunately, he got into a bit of trouble, and there was a lot of debate about that, and they were arguing, you know, what would happen, but, you know, it all worked out in the end.
They flicked him in the end, though, didn't
they?
they?
Well, he was 10th. Yeah, he got to start 10th, but no one remembers that part.
No, nobody remembers that little fact at the end of it. Now, one of the other things that was interesting, and I'd forgotten about this, John, was that at one point there, you actually turned television commentator, and you did some work for us on Channel 7, and one of the interesting interviews was this one.
Peter, a classic fast lap. You've done a 16:07. You made a couple of little mistakes, mate.
Yeah.
What about McPhillamy Park?
Yeah, what happened is I had the brakes adjusted for a full tank of petrol, and foolishly as I touched the brake, I went in and oversteered. And the same thing over here. I thought, oh, Brock, what are you doing?
Brock, I can tell you the mob on the hill loved it.
I loved it, mate, because I kept the pedal to the metal, as you know, Slug, and drove out of there, and I thought, not bad.
See, that was missing off your CV as well. Not only did you drove the Vitabrit, but you're a television star as well. I'd completely forgot that, John. So that's a bit weird, you two standing there playing those roles together, isn't it?
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
Yeah, it would have been a bit of fun. Gents, and in particular, Bradley, have you got a Brock yarn you can share with us? And I know Tim will have dozens of them, but have you got anything that you can share with the class?
Well, there's a couple of crazy things, you know, as it always is with Brock. But one of probably my fondest memories was he was a commentator at Bathurst, and I was racing in the Audi at the time, and they decided it would be entertaining if I actually took the king of the mountain for a ride in the car. And so I said to him before we started, this is a bit ironic, isn't it? The last lap you ever do this joint's going to be with me. So we bantered about, got in the car, and as we got to the end of the pit lane, we're just about to go out, he leaned across and put his hand on my knee and said, there's nothing to prove here. And I looked back at him and I said, want to bet? I said, it's going to be the craziest 2 minutes you ever spent with anyone. So, and then we had to talk, you know, as we went around. It was all pretty cordial, but I was pedalling that thing as hard as I could.
What about you, Tim?
Yeah, well, Peter's big deal was signing autographs, and he's probably signed more autographs than there are 5-cent pieces in Australia, I reckon. They're everywhere. And he just had this fantastic fan base which grew and grew and grew. Now, one of which was a guy who was unfortunately about to die. He was crook. And he had said to somebody at Holden Dealer Team, when I go, I want to be burned and I want my ashes thrown out of Brock's car driving around Sandown. And sure enough, he went and the ashes turned up, and one of the administrator blokes said, well, we can't tell Peter what we're doing here. We'll just say we're doing a test lap before practice. So he got in the passenger side, wound down the window and said, off you go. Brock took off, and while he wasn't watching, he's emptied this urn of ashes out the window. Unfortunately, the wind's blown it straight back into Brock's face. What was that all about? Like said, oh, look, I don't know, it's they're redoing the curbs, it must be concrete dust. So we never got to find out about that one.
Thankfully. It's almost impossible to cram a lifetime of stories into a show like this, but one of the things that Aaron's been doing and working very hard in recent months is getting together a whole bunch of interesting vision from the library. He's got some more stuff now from the vault.
And Neil, this is potentially the best bit of vision I've got from the vault for the entire series of Shannon's Legends of Motorsport. It's black and white. It's from 1973 at the Sandown 250, which Peter won, in fact, in the XU1 Tirana. It's Peter, Harry Firth, Will Hagan is the interviewer. Check this bit of vision out and have a look at the old Fox. He gives Will Hagan absolutely nothing.
Peter Brock, happy moments for you, much happier than at Adelaide a few weeks ago.
Yes, certainly. Adelaide was one of those weekends where nothing went right, but today everything went as planned. The car didn't miss a beat all day, nor did Collins, and gee, I thought the way mine finished up, it's just ready for Bathurst.
What's most important for you, winning Bathurst or winning the Manufacturers' Championship?
Both. We're greedy.
Good, thanks very much.
Yeah, I was with my dad at Sandown for a touring car race. It was the South Pacific Touring Car Championship of the day. And Dad was in the same field, you know, with Brock. So when the cars come in at the end of the race and all those areas, I was sort of always standing around. And I just thought he had a beautiful personality, you know. Even as a young guy, I mean, he wouldn't have known me at all, but he said g'day and would walk by. And
no, I think Peter was always going to get there. He was a very determined sort of driver. And the person.
I spent many years with Peter Brock. I ran his team from 82 to 85. We had 3 Bathurst wins, and we really got on well.
Well, anybody that suggests that Brock wasn't quick is an idiot, obviously. He was quick.
He was so confident in his own abilities that he wouldn't actually prepare. You know, some drivers, if they were going to go and drive a certain car for the first time, would go out and do miles of testing and everything else. Peter wouldn't even know about the car until he actually sat down, put his harness on, and then people told him where the gear stick was.
As a person, over the time that I knew the guy, he changed an awful lot as a person, but fantastic driver, just had a real natural ability and a real knock-around bloke. Honestly, I can honestly sit here and tell you that I've never raced against a fairer guy. All the years we raced wheel to wheel, and never once did we swap paint.
There's some pretty special material in all that, boys. One final question on the topic. Finest win. There were 9 of them at Bathurst. Which one do you reckon was the best, John?
I think 79. It was the end of the era of the Tirana, and we were faced with the, well, not faced with, but looking forward to the Commodore, which had a lot more features than the A9X, but it had been a very, very successful run with the Tiranas, and that 79 race just capped it all off.
For me, it was probably, I like a close finish, but, winning by a lap, breaking the lap record, that sort of stuff. You dream of that when you're a race car driver, that covers me off.
Tim, you were there for many of those. Which one was special?
I was, and the one I really liked and thought he drove best at was one he didn't win, which was 85, when the Jaguars won. And he just drove a magnificent race to keep up with those things, up in second position, and he busted the timing chain. Did he not?
Yeah, we both did.
But to that stage it was just a magnificent effort to try and keep up with cars that were quite superior, actually.
Well, this program today pretty much wraps up our series of the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. What I would also like to do now is pay special tribute and a thank you to two guys who've worked very hard throughout the series. I'd like to get the audience to put their hands together, please, for Aaron Noonan and Mark Ostler. They've done a great job. Thanks, boys. Aaron in particular has spent hundreds of hours going through the 7 library finding material. I'd also like to keep that applause going for our very special guest, John Harvey, for Brad Jones and for Tim Pemberton today. Thanks, boys. It's been a pleasure. I'm certainly very pleased that we could pay tribute to Peter Brock, and one of the toughest things that I've had to do in my life was to say goodbye 8 years ago. Can you believe it was that long ago? Our series is done. We really hope you've enjoyed it. It has been an absolute pleasure to be able to put together some of this material and share it, and to be able to find that old material from the 7 library, bring cars together and all the drivers. It's been a very special project. So on behalf of everybody at 7 Sport and Shannons, thanks for watching us. See you next time. Bye for now.
There's a tremendous challenge in conquering that mountain, I think, in coming to terms with it.
And Peter Brock goes across the line to win.
Now here it comes, the checkered flag for Peter Brock. Peter Brock now makes it 5 Hardy Frodo successes.
Peter Brock has certainly driven another great race.
Well done, Peter Brock. 8 in a row.
I thoroughly enjoyed myself, I might add, and thanks for all your support out there too. I love the way you're cheering me on.
And when people say you can't do something, well, I think it just brings out that little bit of extra competitiveness you've got inside you.
So for Peter, thank you very much for truly enhancing our lives. Thank you for the joy you gave to so many.